Kia ora and welcome back to Returning to Wholeness, a space where we remember who we truly are beneath the noise of the world. I'm Catherine, and today I'm joined by Deidre Wilton. Together, we explore the deeper layers of this human experience, from collective consciousness shifts and planetary energies to personal growth, shadow work, and stepping into your truth as a conscious co-creator. This conversation really opens up what's happening both within us and around us, especially through the lens of astrology, with the current energies inviting us into leadership, self-awareness, and deeper connection. We talk about navigating fear, working through imposter syndrome, honoring different perspectives, and remembering the importance of community in a time where everything feels like it's shifting. This isn't just about understanding what's happening, it's about learning how to move with it, because you're not here by accident. You're here to remember, to expand, and to rise. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this beautiful kōrero with Deidre Wilton. So Deidre, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and lovely to be here again with you, Catherine.
Feels like it's been forever.
Time is just so weird at the moment. You know, some things seem like they were only yesterday, and other things seem like, oh, that must have been months ago. It's really weird. But I do remember Lee Harris talking about this and him saying that in this year that time is going to become more circular and less linear. So it's almost like everything just keeps going round and not so much repeating itself, but it's almost, I think we're going to all experience a lot of, oh, this feels familiar, or I think we've done this before, but we're going to be doing it differently. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And even what you do in the morning, you get to the afternoon, you think, surely I did that days ago, but it was only just a few hours ago. It's odd, but it's okay.
It is odd. We're having such a massive shift at the moment. And would that be to do with the planetary?
Yes, well, at the moment, we've got all this huge lineup of planets in Aries. So Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, it's very much that I am energy that's coming in at the moment. And that is very powerful for people in their personal lives to go after what they want and to put themselves first and to soldier on, but also to take that, you know, I keep getting shown the Fool card from the tarot is very much this time at the moment. But the challenge with it is that if we can't all come first, we can't all be leaders, and it can't always be about you. So, you know, there's all this balancing going on at the moment where, you know, we want to go after what we want and what's important to us, and we should, but we've also got to be aware of working, collaborating with others, because the opposite of Aries is Libra. And as Aries rules the individual, Libra rules relationships. And so when there's a lot of planets in one side of the zodiac, the opposite side reacts to that as well, because it's the opposing it. So then, you know, we are learning a lot about relationships at the moment as well, that it's, you know, the world isn't just about you. You're not the only person here. It can't always gravitate around you. And it's, you know, it's interesting, you know, we all do this when we have arguments or disagreements or something with somebody, you know, because we're only seeing it from our own perspective, our own point of view, we can often completely miss where the other person might be or what they might be going through or how it's looking from their perspective. So I think that this is a time for, you know, it's a time, you know, Aries energy is about taking action. It's about being busy. It's about, you know, it's ruled by Mars, which is the planet of war. And this is why when we look at what's going on globally, particularly, you know, the war between Iran and the US and Israel, it's a product of this energy, this warlike energy, where, you know, these are three energies or three countries or whatever you want to call them that just want to come first. They want to win. They want it to be all about them. And whether it's right or wrong or good or bad or whatever, that's irrelevant. It's just about, you know, we've got to learn to work together. So I sort of feel this time we're going through at the moment is going to make it very obvious who's not a team player, who's just out to get whatever they want for themselves. And this is in our personal lives as well as in what's going on globally, because as we know, everything that's going on for you is sort of playing out on the stage around you as well, because, you know, there is that spiritual belief system that there's nobody here but you. It's only you that's here. So nobody else actually exists. It's all just part of your dream or your projection, which is pretty out there, but it could be true. And so that's why we've got to be aware, if we want to see changes outside of ourselves, we've got to make those changes inside of ourselves. So we've all got to deal with our own anger, with our own need to be right, with our own need to not want to be subservient, or not want to follow others when we want to have it all our own way. We've all got to deal with that inside of ourselves so that the rest of the world can deal with it on the outside of ourselves.
And I think, you know, how do we do that? We do that by honoring other people's perspectives. You know, we don't have to agree with it, but you do have to say, hey, I'm quite intrigued that you see it that way, that you're seeing it from that angle. I'm sitting on this side, but it doesn't mean that anyone's better than the other. You know, so it's having that, what a blessing, allowing.
Yes. Allowing, absolutely. Good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Allowing and letting it be. And yeah, so we've all got to, and it's interesting because we're coming out of this age of illusion where we've all sort of had our heads in the sand and we've all been sort of asleep and we've all been, burying our heads in the sand, sweeping things under the carpet. So that's been going on for a long, long time. And all of a sudden we've got this energy of exposing everything and revealing everything. And it's like, it's really extreme. It's like, it really does feel like it's gone from one extreme to the other. This hasn't been a gradual thing with things slowly start coming out. It's just coming out and in your face now. And we've got to do something with that energy. That's what it's all about.
And so what are some tools you think that people can use to do something with that energy?
I think that we all need to start, even though with the Aries energy is all encouraging us to be individuals and to rely on ourselves and to think for ourselves and, really step into our sovereignty. That's really important. But we've got to be able to do that with the awareness that we can't do it on our own. I mean, there'll be parts, you and I might work together and there might be something where you take charge because that's what you do. And then there'd be another area where I take charge because that's where I do. So it's about getting away from this whole sort of megalomaniac, one person's in charge, one size fits all. We all have to fit into the same box. It's rubbish. It's always been rubbish. We're all different, but that doesn't mean we can't all come together. So I think it's very much about finding a community or being a part of a community and celebrating everybody's differences and seeing all of those differences for what they're worth, what they bring to the table for everybody.
And so that's very Aquarius energy, right?
Yes.
So how does that sit in alignment with everything at the moment? Where is our Aquarius energy?
Well, Pluto and Aquarius. So Pluto, we have in astrology, we have what we call generational planets. They're generational because they stay in one sign of the zodiac for a long time, which means that everybody who's born during that particular time frame is born with that placement. And so it creates a generation of people who look at things from a particular perspective. So that changes their generations. A planet like Pluto, which can stay in a sign of the zodiac from anything from about 11 years up to about 40 years. It's a really, really long time. So it creates this whole generation of people who are going to look at things in a certain way. So Pluto is a lot. And then Neptune also spends around about 15 years in a sign of the zodiac. So that also creates a whole generation of people who are going to look at things in a certain way and a certain energy that's there to be used. Always, this is designed for the benefit of the planet. But when we look back, like at the 60s, for instance, during the 60s, I was just looking into this before, in the 60s, we had Neptune was in Scorpio, so for most of that time, and Chiron was in Aquarius for most of that time. So with those two energies like that in the 60s, it was very much an energy of sort of escapism, of hiding behind things, and so that's when, like in the 60s, it's almost like feels to me like the universe gives us these opportunities by sending us certain energies that we can use in a positive way. But as human beings, we tend to take those energies and use them in a not so positive way. So if we look at the 60s and we look at all the open-mindedness that came with that, and that's what was being given to us with this, the need to look more deeply into things, the need to feel our way through things. Or I think we all got so caught up, or the people back in the 60s, and sort of in their 50s.
Really feeling into things, maybe?
They got so caught up in all of that sort of freedom that they decided just to use it for their own personal benefit. So, drugs that were there were, instead of just, I don't know, having a little bit, they had lots, free, having sex all over the place. I mean, that's all everybody's choice, and I'm not judging it in any way, but it was like taking an energy of freedom and misusing it in some ways, not in every way, in lots of ways. I mean, it brought lots of love and to the universe, to the earth plane as well, and lots of, people wanting more love, more companionship, more help with one another. That was the really good, beautiful energy that it brought in, that was supposed to bring in. But then when the drugs and the sex and things came into it, it just like became almost hedonistic, where everything just feels so good. Let's just make it feel even better, but artificially, and not using it for the right reasons. So, we're always given these opportunities by the heavens or the planets, or whatever you want to look at it as, but it's up to us as human beings is how we're going to use that energy. So now that we're in this age of Aquarius, I mean, the age of Aquarius, one of the liabilities of Aquarian energy is that Aquarian energy is not very good at letting go. So if you know many Aquarian people, they tend to hold on to things way past their use-by date. So this is everything from jobs to relationships to things at the back of the fridge, whatever it might be, because if they don't know what's going to replace it, they don't want to get rid of it. So they'll hold on to anything until they feel, like I know so many Aquarians who stay in jobs that just because they're good at it and it pays them well. They hate it. They're miserable every day at work, but why give up something that's working well for you? So we've got to sort of realize in the age of Aquarius, it's all about change. It's about innovation. It's about moving forward. So we can't stay stuck in the past. So we have to keep moving forward with this innovative energy that it's giving us and let go of that fear of not knowing what's going to come next. We've just got to know and have that faith that if it's moving in a direction that feels positive, then positive things will come out of that.
Yeah, I was just talking about that in a previous little snippet that I did of a little podcast that I did on myself, and it was around being on the edge of the cliff and not knowing what's next. And instead of actually taking that step and being in that limitlessness, you stand back and you hold on to the thing that's actually holding you in position that you're actually not really wanting to hold on to.
And that thing you're holding on to is probably a rotten branch on a rotten tree that's going to snap any minute anyway. So that's where I said before, that Fool card from the tarot is that, taking that leap of faith, stepping off that cliff.
Yeah. And having faith that you actually do have all the tools and skills in your tool belt in your kit's head to be able to take that next step, to be able to go into this new place of the new you, because that's what Aquarius energy really feels like, isn't it? It's like reinventing.
And remembering always that it's all about energy. It takes, we're looking, if we want things to shift in the world, then more people have to be looking at things from a positive perspective than from a negative one. Because if everybody's in fear, then fear will be the outcome. But if everybody's in hope or faith, that will be the outcome. So, this is where it's so important to do that inner work and to not buy into any fear, no matter what's going on around you, to try and find that space within you that's always peaceful, that's always your happy place, that's always a place where you feel safe, where you feel okay. And whatever that might be, whether it's a memory or someone you love or something like that, but having that to cling to. And because when you're in that energy, it feels different. It's like basically the energy that comes with the 3 words, I love myself, shifts everything.
Yes.
No matter, whatever you're saying. And another one that I find really useful is I am in the light and of the light. I feel whenever I use that, I feel my aura just expands out and I feel like I'm in this big bubble of protection. So that's a really nice one to use too.
I just want to talk back into the collective energy and how when, where energy goes, where focus goes, energy flows. And so when we look at what's happening over in overseas and with the war and all the things, and we look at the energy shift and how when it shifts within us and we fall into that fear mongering, how that then domino effect then kind of vibrates onto what we've seen within the recent weather events as well. Yes. Understanding that we are all interconnected. We're interconnected with nature. We are all one, really, in the grand scheme of things. So if we can control our dominant frequency, then we're able to actually alchemize that fear and actually keep ourselves safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it sounds airy-fairy, and it doesn't sound like it's got a lot of power, but it really does.
It really does.
Because everything is energy, and that's what people don't even realize. Like a thought is energy. It's not just about what you say or do, it's about what you think, because it all, we all know within ourselves that when we think a negative thought, it has a physical effect on our body. We might feel a bit sick, or we might feel a bit, tensed up or something like that. So everything, and as we see the work done with water, how the water crystals change when you speak nicely to water, or when you're really abusive to water, it'll change. And this is what people think it's really weird, sort of airy-fairy energy, but it's actually the most basic knowledge that you need, that everything is energy.
And I really feel that as we are shifting, as we're getting pushed further into a place of having to go inward, because it's like this stuff out here is just so crazy. What is going on? And we're then having to retreat back inward. I think that's when we're really the light bulbs are going to start turning on, where it's like, actually, hold on. I am creating this environment. I am the creator of my world.
Yeah. So what is in your inwards? I mean, we've all got to look at what are you hiding in there? What are you holding on to in there? Because it's going to create an energy.
That's right. That's right. And whether that, it doesn't have to always be healing and working on something. Sometimes it can just be, I really want to focus on this part of myself that I really enjoy. And because if we are allowing that more of that, then the other stuff isn't sort of taking up so much energy and overwhelming us. And we're not creating more of that to then what we call the confirmation bias, continue to create that, because we are looking for that confirmation of how we're feeling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is to be aware with the other thing with the energy is what energy is good for you and what's not, in the sense of what's your flow and what's not. Because as we're aware, things are changing a lot in the world, and the way we used to do things isn't going to work in the future. And things are already starting to collapse in that way. I mean, just using basically the oil issue at the moment is that we're all so used to jumping in our cars and going to do something without a thought. And now we've got to think about those sorts of things a bit more. And that's, there's a lot of talk out there that it's all been manufactured and all the rest of it, but whether it has or not, the earth itself still has a say in this. And so what we were shown a long time ago is that the oil within the earth is kind of like, it's not so much the blood of the earth, it's the lubrication of the earth that allows the earth to turn on its axis. And so when we withdraw all of that oil and take it out, it's like it's going, instead of doing this nice, gentle flow, it can't move like it used to. So the earth itself is protesting, and it's sending out its own energy of what it will be, what it will accept and what it won't. When I was up in Tauranga, I saw you recently, and I went for a drive around the Mount Maunganui, since the big disaster there. And the energy there was just awful, and I tuned into the mountain and Mount Maunganui, and it just wanted to hold itself. It was sort of saying to me, I want to be an island. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be connected with all of this. I just want to be left alone, to heal and to be just left alone. And I think that this is the planet itself, the trees, the land, the waterways, all of it, they have their own energy, and they will do what they need to do to clear the energy as well. And so I don't think they will allow too much war to damage them, to damage the earth again.
I guess that's my next question is, we have all of these beliefs around how we are co-creators with source and how we are, but then I always get kind of tripped up a little bit, Deidre, with the planets and how we are actually everything is kind of like, I don't even know how to say it, how we have a blueprint and it all comes from our astrology and all the different planets and the different frequencies that come from those planets. And how are we creating our own environment when we're also so dominated by these planets?
Well, the planets give us energies and opportunities to do things differently, or to look at things in a certain way, or to use that energy in a certain way. And like we talked about that Aries energy at the moment, Aries is about standing on your own 2 feet. It's about making your own decisions. It's about being solid and believing in yourself and standing up for what you believe in and all of that. So that's what Aries is about. So we're being given all this energy at the moment to do something with. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that each and every one of us have got to go out there and rule the world and change everything. But within your own world, within your own life, where do you need to step up right now? Where do you need to speak up right now and take charge of something in your life that's going to then create a better balance for you moving forward? So it's like, we've had too long, or we've just been giving our energy away, or you make that decision, or I'll hand that over to you, or, you know better than me, or you've got more education than me, whatever it might be. So I will defer to you in any situation that's important. But this is the year of sovereignty, where we've got to remember, actually, we came here to think for ourselves. And this is the big problem, is that when we choose our lives before we're born, we make this beautiful plan where everything's going to fall into place, everything's going to work out perfectly, we're going to learn all our lessons, and we're going to have a great time. But what happens, I'll just go and fix my screen quickly here.
Blurry.
So we make this plan, but then we come down. And so while we're making this plan in the spirit realms, we're making this only from a place of love. That's all there is pure love. And then when we come here, of course, we arrive on the earth plane where we have two emotions, love and fear. And so fear is almost like the humanness of us, and that takes over, it does take over. But we've always got that choice. Do I want to do this in the way that I was destined to do this, or am I going to take it and do it my way? And sometimes doing it my way is part of the learning, very much, but you've got to try and get back on that track again of what you actually came here to do. And this is where I think people have gotten very lost in the humanness of it all. So, when they think about coming here to be successful, they think about, oh, well, I need to have a really highly paid job. I need to have a great title. I need to have a lot of education. I need to drive a really good car and have a beautiful home. That's success. Whereas actually, when you chose your life before you were born, your definition of success then would have been to be happy.
Yes.
But you got so caught up in the human little ride that you're on that you forgot about the real, what's really important. So, when people come looking for what their purpose is in life, your purpose is never really to be an engineer or a teacher or anything. Your purpose is to learn things and be happy.
Yeah.
And, and we've got to get back to that.
And I see that in a lot of elderly, at the end of their lives, they're kind of like, well, what's more to life than loving my children? What's more to life than being a part of a community that I can contribute to and give, my wisdom to, or that I can sit in the presence of those that need that company or whatever. It's about feeling into things. It's not about, oh, I can give this money here and I've got this money, or I can go to sleep with my money under my pillow,
And that's the other thing. I think, moving forward, we're going to have to come into a whole different world of currencies, where currencies aren't going to be about dollars. I mean, I think, it'll take a while for a new global currency, I think, to sort of come out in any way. But, we're going to start, there should always be an exchange of energy in whatever you do. But that energy doesn't have to be money. For too long, it's been all about money. And it's not a fair energy to be swapping. I mean, the fact that the world has relied on the American dollar has dictated everything for so long, and itself is just completely out of balance. Why should one currency rule the entire world? That doesn't even make sense. I mean, you go to places like, whenever I go to Bali, and you have a $10 and it's worth like a million rupee, what I've got with the call now, but whatever they are there. And, so everything, and then it all has to come back to another dollar value. It's not fair, and it doesn't make sense.
And I think I look at that in, different spaces where people are working as collectives, and, they value, especially in from my point from New Age Māori, is that they look at, if you put the dollar in, then that means more than if you put, the value isn't as, the value is higher than if you were doing what we call whānau mahi. So if you're actually out there doing the work, you're actually in there contributing your time. And for me, I feel like, it should be the same. It should be the same, if not valued more, because somebody is taking their time out of their life to come and contribute to that collective experience, Anybody can go and grab $100 from your bank account and transfer it over, but to actually take that time out to go and spend the time to actually put the energy, your energy, into, say, if we're talking about land, into your land, that's that ongoing unison contribution flow,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that should be valued highly.
And that's what we've got to start to look at, is, is putting more of a value on what we each bring to the table. Yeah. And this is where we talk about wisdom in particular. I mean, I don't think I'm a communist, but I have always believed and never understood why. I sort of think everybody should be paid the same amount of money no matter what they do, because you may be a lawyer who's done, years and years of training and study and all of that, but then you might be someone who's a cleaner. But, that lawyer can't survive without the cleaner, and the cleaner probably can survive without the lawyer, but the cleaner is really, really essential. Yet a cleaner is paid nothing, absolutely nothing for the work that they do. And without them, everything would fall apart. So why is it so this is what we need to come back to, is better balance. Because what also happens is someone who's a cleaner has very little, sort of assuming, I'm not judging again, they may have very little self-respect. They may think they've got the most terrible job in the world. They might think that this is all I can do because I don't have an education. Well, all you're doing is better than what most people are doing, because you're actually really, giving a service that without, we would all not be in a good space.
Yeah, look, I've got a cleaner that I use, and she's amazing. She's a single mother. And she also is a manager of a really busy business here in the Coromandel. And she's incredible, and she does it. But I make sure that I pay her well, because I want to pay her what she's worth. Yes. And I also know that money is going to her child, so you think about that conscious, that you're doing it intentionally and feels right within yourself. And then when you do that exchange then goes on to them. They know that when they're coming, they're valued, they're seen. So it helps to build whatever, say, blocks or limitations that they have on themselves as well, because they start feeling like, yeah, I may be cleaning, but hey, I'm doing this, and it's also et cetera, right? Because everything's energy. Exactly. And when we're setting the right intentions, we can also help shift those mindsets as well by how we are turning up as those that are doing the giving. But my grandfather always said to me, and I always found that really admirable of him, is that it doesn't matter whether you're the CEO of a company or you're the cleaner. You are just a man, Exactly. And so he could talk to everybody and anybody, and he talked to them all the same way, and he taught me the same thing. We put people on a pedestal because of some kind of programming that we've had made, we've been conditioned to think, but actually they are just a man. They bleed the same way. They all have the same problems. They all have the
Exactly.
same wants and needs. And I feel like what it comes back to is everybody wants to be a part of a community where they're seen, heard, and they feel like they're able to contribute.
Yeah, everybody wants a purpose. Everybody wants to feel fulfillment in their day. That they've actually made a difference, or they've extended themselves, or they've done something to feel better. And when you're continually being put down or not paid well or not appreciated for what you do, it's just, why would you bother? Why just sit around and get an unemployment benefit if no one's going to appreciate you for what you actually do try to do? And it's just created this vicious circle of lack of respect, self-respect, and respect for others, and just this apathy as well, which is really sad.
I feel very much like it's the system that we are currently living in has been set up to disconnect us from one another and from ourselves. And when we understand that, so for me, I've always been taught, like I'm not much about religion. I don't believe in indoctrination. I've said this in this previous podcast that I just did, but I do believe in a lot of the values that the Bible has said, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah.
Now that is the key one for us moving forward with all of these shifts and changes that are coming up in the world.
Yeah.
How would I feel if this was happening to me?
Yes.
How would I want to be treated in this situation? Like for me, I was once a single mother. So I remember what it was like on the grind to be able to give my daughter whatever she needed and whatever she wanted, and I did cleaning. I didn't care what it was. And I don't know if I was valued. I don't know, but I knew the reason why I was doing it. And so when I see another mother doing that, I honor that part of herself and I make sure that she is seen and valued and and so that's how I feel whenever I approach anything, is always, how would I want to be treated in this situation? And I think that is definitely with what's happening with AI and all of the shifts and changes and, not having that time to be able to really sit, like, of course, with the gas prices, it's not like we can drive to each other, can we, Deidre, and have these, what we call kanohi ki te kanohi, face to face. We have to do it by a screen. So in order to be able to create that energy exchange and be able to keep that connection going, we have to make sure that we're doing this really intentionally.
And with the fuel things the way they're going at the moment, whether there's plenty of fuel or not so much fuel, by doing things this way, we're saving the environment as well, because I'm not hopping in a plane to come to you and you're or driving a car or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're contributing in that way as well.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I mean, I really do feel that the only way forward, or the best way forward for humanity, is to go back to the elders, to go back to the wisdom of time. And at the moment, the elders that are running this role are crusty old men who just honestly are just driven by capitalism and greed and power and not for the highest good of anything. No. And it's a really good example I was reading, I think it was on Stuff the other day, was about a tailor, someone who makes clothes and adjusts clothes and does dressmaking, that sort of thing, and how few of these people there are around now. And the average age for a tailor, and I think this was a global thing, is 54 years old. That's the average age. So which shows that very few people are taking this on as a new tool or a new craft of any sort. But AI can't do that. AI can't measure you and everybody. Well, I mean, maybe in the future they can, but, to actually measure someone's exact shape around their legs, around their waist, and then, because everybody's a different shape, and to be able to do that, and to take, these tailors were saying that they get a lot of people who go op shopping, of course, and buy clothes, and then the clothes, they really like something that's really, maybe it's a little designer label thing that they found in an op shop, so they just need it altered to fit them perfectly, so they can, wear it and feel happy in it. And there's just so few people around who can do that now. So this is just like one of many, many skills that we cannot afford to lose, because, if we do, if everything collapses around the world, if worst case scenario, we're all going to be relying a lot on secondhand clothes and that sort of thing. And so we want to be able to know how to fix those if they get a hole in them. I mean, everybody who darns socks anymore, who fixes things with holes in it, most people just throw them out and get a new one. So we've got to move out of this disposable way of being as well, and start to make a lot, because I think, and what people, I don't know how many people have realized this, but, with the oil industry, plastic comes out of the oil industry, piping comes out of the oil industry. There's so many products that are byproducts of petroleum that we rely on every single day, plastic bags. And even though we've, tried to get rid of them, they're still using them all the time. So all of that stuff's going to become harder to get, more expensive. So we've got to be looking at all sorts of ways to keep things, for instance, an example. And, we look back to where they used to, bury stuff in the ground to keep it, or to wrap it up in waxed paper, and there's all these other alternatives, but they need to start being more proactive. They need to start coming into the foreground again.
Yeah. What are your views on, being self-sufficient, being self-sustainable? What are your
That's the ultimate way forward. But I don't think we should all sort of have our little piece of home and nobody's allowed on it, and we only have ours, and we're not sharing, and we're not trading or anything. I think it's very much about, well, my backyard's this big and it gets that much sun, so I could grow lots of potatoes here because they grow really well here. And what can you grow in your backyard, and how can we use that as a community? I mean, where I live now, they've just started up a little Facebook group, which is produce, buy, sell, or swap little thing that's just popped up, and it's great to watch people pop up in the morning. I've got a whole lot of lemons, does anyone got some tomatoes or whatever, and just do the swap or exchange whatever you want to exchange for that. And that should be something really normal that we all do without any, my tomatoes are bigger than your lemons, so you should give me more tomatoes than lemons. It just should all just be a natural exchange of energy.
Yeah. It's funny, and in different spaces, I've found that when people think that, someone's growing it, or if somebody's gone out and caught the fish, or somebody's gone and, that they should just have a right to it, because, they're like almost like as if they just got it for free, so I should. But actually, I don't believe that to be true. I think anybody that is offering something, the value should be reciprocated, right? So I agree with you when you say just because you've got bigger tomatoes means that they should give them more lemons or whatever,
Yeah.
It should be, yeah, it should be. But I think that's something that what I was always taught by my grandparents was, if there is a need, then you will go to the need, right? So it's as simple as that. So if somebody needs it, if they need, if you've got a family, this is like my grandfather taught us, if they have a family of 10, you've got a family of 5, well, they need double. That's where it is. And so you give them double, and you don't need to take double because there's only 5 of you.
Yeah.
So that's how working as a collective works, And I think about my grandmother, and she talks about the land here, because we are tangata whenua here at Whangapoa. And when she was a little girl, they used to have on the hills big orchards and big marakai, big gardens. They used to, and they would all, as the whole of Whangapoa, they would all work together and doing the harvesting and doing the planting. And you'd have one lot of women, they'd be down in the river and they'd be doing the washing, while the men are up there doing the planting, and they all just worked as a collective.
Yeah.
And then they were very good at gardening and growing produce. And so then the ones that were really good, that had come up from down Opotike, down the east coast, they were the fishermen. So they were the divers and the fishermen. And so they would go around and they would go diving and fishing. And then as they came back around the bays, they would drop the kaimoana off, and they would do their trading. And then you'd have the ones that would do the hunting, and then they would come down and they'd drop the kai off to the foot. So they all worked together in that way. And it wasn't, I gave you a pig last week, so where's my, it was all, what have you got, and let's trade, and if you don't, that's fine. It doesn't mean I'm not going to bring you the kai.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. Such a beautiful way.
Just human. I mean, and that is actually human nature. That's our natural way of being. We're not really supposed to be all greedy and capitalistic and selfish, and it's mine and you can't have any. We're supposed to be open and caring and giving. But yeah, I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, there's people that will give you the shirt off their backs, and there's people that would, walk past somebody who's dying on the street and not do a thing. There's all sorts of people out there, and we've got to come back to start. I think people have got to come back to their conscience as well. And I think feels right.
Deidre, I think that's where we talk about, those that are walking past somebody that's dying on the street, those are disconnected. Those are the ones that are disconnected from themselves, because they're not realizing that we are all interconnected. Yeah. What is happening to that person is happening to a part of yourself. That's why it's turning up in front of you.
Yes.
It's giving you the opportunity to come from your higher self, your best self, or continue on what path that you're going on, which is probably not serving you. Let's be honest. If you can leave somebody dying on the street, you mustn't be a very happy person.
Yeah, because one of the beautiful things is what we're going through now actually gives us all the opportunity to be the best version of ourselves we can possibly be, to really step up into what you want to be, and to create the world you want to live in. So, if you feel that the world is, too angry, then, it's your job then to create more peace.
Yeah.
and just to start to identify these things and do whatever little bit is that you can do. Just, that's like walking down the street and smiling at people and saying hello when you're walking down the street. That could be whoever you're saying hello to, you might have been the only person that's spoken to them in 3 days, and that could make a huge difference to them.
We talk about, I saw something online and they talk about hugging, human connection. There are people, I couldn't believe this, there are people that can go years without having physical touch. I mean, as a woman who wakes up every morning and almost inhales her children with kisses and loves, I couldn't imagine it, I mean, and being Māori, that's how we greet each other, that we have that connection, I mean, you look at the hungi is about sharing the breath, so to think that there are people out there, I mean, how are you able to truly embody who you are if you're not being physically touched?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%. But we also know there's people out there who are very not touchy-feely and people who are out there who are very touchy-feely. A lot of it's conditioning as well. I mean, I know from myself, I was brought up in a family where nobody ever told you they loved you. Nobody ever touched you. I mean, I knew I was loved and I was looked after. I wasn't abused or anything bad like that. But, I was craving someone to say I love you, craving someone to put their arm around you and give you a cuddle. You just didn't get it. And that was because, and I don't, that's because nobody ever did it to them. So how could they possibly teach it to me? So yeah, this is all these things that need to change. We've put these big blocks between ourselves and other people. And, a lot of that's conditioning and being brought up, not to feel comfortable around men, not to feel comfortable around people who are a different color, not to feel comfortable around someone who's a different religion, whatever it might be. But they're all just bullshit, really, isn't it? It's just all make believe. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we understand that we are the creators of our experience, of our life, we are creating this. We can, I remember as a child, I moved around a lot. I did a lot of, and I mean, like I had a lot of aunties and uncles, a lot of cousins, a lot of close friends and that kind of thing. So I was picking up a lot of information from a lot of different families, and I was working out what I wanted when I got older. So I wasn't conditioning myself to, well, this is what I got, so this is what I'm going to pass on, right? So we understand that that's what we are able to do. Like, hey, if I want more love and connection in my life, I need to have a look and see what that looks like to me, and then start, practicing that.
Be what you want to receive.
Be what you want to receive. Yeah. So I talked about in my previous podcast about, subliminals and really working in that meditative state. So guided meditation, how that can really help in regards to reprogramming that conditioning. I think that's really important for us to talk into. I know you do a bit of meditation and guided meditations as well. Not a bit, a lot. So what are your thoughts on that, Deidre?
Yeah, well, I think with guided meditation, like we just mentioned before, anything that can help you find that peace within. And then, when you know how to access it, like some people, another great way to access that is breathing. We're just getting into a rhythmic breathing or some sort of breathing technique that just instantly brings you peace. And I think that's what we've all got to look for. And for some people, they're active relaxers, so that they, sitting down and meditating, it just might be really frustrating for them. It's not going to work. But going for a walk in nature, like yesterday, we went down to the lake at the Nelson Lakes and just walked all through the bush there. And it was just, honestly, it was just the most beautiful, peaceful, wonderful experience. And you just come out of it, you go, that's what I needed. And it didn't do anything. All I did was walk through there, just let the nature do its job, work on me as I walked through it. But it was just beautiful. And I think the more people can connect with nature and just allow themselves to be, stop trying to be something and just be you, whatever that might be, and start to look at what makes you happy. I mean, maybe you've got a big corporate job and career and you're very successful and you enjoy it and everything, but maybe the other part of you just loves to knit. And so, and how often do you allow yourself to do that? And what could you do with that gift or that talent? Could you be, making a blanket for somebody who doesn't have a blanket? There's just all these uses of things that we have sort of told ourselves they're not productive, they're not useful, they're not constructive, they're just, what you do, they're just your little fantasy or whatever. Those are the things that are going to start to have a lot more power and a lot more purpose for everybody moving forward. So I think it's a good activity for people to really think about, what do you enjoy doing? I'm running a retreat in June and another one in September. And they're for women over the age of 50, because I really want women over the age of 50 to understand and welcome in the wisdom that they've brought with them. And one of the things that, we'll be working on during that is it's just talking about and being aware of what did you what do you do that your mother used to do really well, or your grandmother used to do well, or your aunt used to do really well, that you have probably not even recognized within yourself as a gift or a talent? And again, we'll go back to knitting. It could be that, you know, your mum was a great knitter, your grandmother was, and so you learned how to do it too, but you haven't done it for 30 years because you've been too busy off doing your corporate thing, which is okay. But there's a gift there. There's something else there that you can use to give back, that you enjoy, that makes you happy. And we need to start celebrating those parts of ourselves a whole lot more, instead of just sweeping them under the carpet or saying, oh, that's just what I used to do, or that's what I did when I was a kid, or what's what grandma did.
You know, and I find, you know, when we look at the law, you know, the universal laws, and we think about, you know, the things that are going to make us the most wealthy are usually the things that you get the most enjoyment out of. Because we got to remember that everything is an energy exchange. So they say that when you're in the right job, you don't work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Right.
And money is the side effect, or a symptom of doing the right thing.
Yeah. And then when you look at astrology, I've heard you talking to this as well. It's usually the thing that you enjoyed the most when you were a child, right?
Yes, absolutely believe that whatever we do as children, as a child, you only gravitate towards what you're good at and what you love. And that should be everybody's career. We shouldn't be forcing ourselves to do things that we're good at but we don't enjoy, because it's not a complete job then. And it's not creating the right energy either. And we all know, everybody, you can basically taste a meal that's had love put into it, and then you can taste a meal where no one gave a toss about what was going into it. You know, because you can taste energy as well, and smell it and sense it and everything. So I think when people start putting more love and care into what they do, whatever that might be, that can only be a good thing. It can only create a better product or a better project or whatever at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because even when I look at, you know, we look at different corporate women or men that have worked in these jobs for forever, and they don't love their jobs, and they get paid good money, but a lot of them don't have a lot to show for it.
No.
Because they're not valuing what they're doing. They're just doing it. So we have to understand that everything is energy and that intention. So if we put really good intention into something, like say making a meal, and everybody's going to really enjoy the taste of the food because you've really put all of this love and nourishment into it, that then goes on to they're feeling good. They then are serving their body. That creates health. So we have to understand that everything is energy along those lines. And so even when you're in a job, if you're in a job that you love and really enjoy, you're going to have that ongoing domino effect. And it's also going to circulate back to you in regards to financial gain, right? And even in regards to friendships or those to share it with, or creating more abundance in other areas. Like say maybe you may not get paid very well in that job, but you also are getting all these other opportunities to create financial revenue that way, because we always kind of hone in, being in the human vessel, we always hone in on that one subject. We have to understand that everything is all working in unison, and that it's not just that one little pinpoint that we're looking at. There's a whole
it's like, to me, it's like a big spider's web. It's all connected. All the threads are connected one way or another.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because I was listening to Matthias de Stefano. Do you know him?
No.
Now, he remembers all of his past lives. He's incredible. And he was talking into astrology around how all the planets have their own blueprint. Do you understand those concepts? Because I was kind of like, oh, maybe Deidre could talk a little bit more into that, because I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, every planet's got a job. You know, and, you know, a lot of the planets and all of that all comes from the Greek and Roman mythology from way back in ancient times. So they all had a purpose. So a lot of those planets were gods, and they had, you know, there's a story around, and that's the blueprint. I mean, so we look at Mars. Mars is the planet of war. It's also the planet of action, of motivation. It's the planet that gets us going. You know, it's seen as the red planet. Red equals energy, you know, physical energy, and getting things going, getting things heated up and taking action. And that's the sort of the blueprint of Mars, is that's what it's. And I imagine every planet would also have its own astrology, in the sense of it's got a lifetime of things that it has to learn and go through as well, just like we all do. Everything does. I don't know how you would know all of that, how you would figure all of that out. But it's just like, it's about working with the energies of the planets and realizing that they've all got, like Saturn, for instance, is, you know, it's the teacher. It's the planet that is always going to teach us. It's not ever going to be the teacher, that the planet that is all sort of about money or love or awareness or courage or anything like that. It's about lessons and learning. So that's Saturn. That's what it's about. So when we understand what the planets are here to teach us and where those planets sit in your chart, you can really start to understand, okay, I've come into this lifetime to really learn. For instance, I'm born with Saturn and Pisces, which means that one of my life lessons is self-discipline and also getting things done, because I've also, where it's placed in my chart, it's all about me having to take the action. And so, I've had to work with that because I'm not the most disciplined person. I can be very self-disciplined, but I can also be incredibly unself-disciplined as well. And so it's a job. And so now that knowing that is a weakness of mine, and then knowing, okay, well, if Saturn's in Pisces, one of the ways I can strengthen that weakness of lack of discipline is to actually look to only put my energy into what I really want to do and what I really love to do, because then I will be disciplined because I'm on the right track and doing what I want to do. Or you could just sit back and go, well, I just can't be bothered to do anything. Nothing makes me happy. So then you fall into that trap of being undisciplined because you're not allowing yourself to work with the energy.
As we know, I'm a Pisces, so I'm like, oh, I feel you, Deidre.
We're off in La La Land most of the time. It's much more fun.
We're mediums. This has been wonderful. Is there, I guess it's just one thing that I wanted to talk into is this one I think is quite important, is how do we work through a lot of our shadow stuff that's coming up at the moment? I feel like there is a lot coming up for the collective. What do you think?
Yep, absolutely. So if when we look at shadow in astrology, we look at the shadow side of the sign of the zodiac. So if we focus on all of these planets in Aries at the moment. So the positive sides to Aries are self-confidence, being able to take action, highly motivated, lots of energy to get things done. It's got lots of positivity about it, leadership energy. But the shadow side of that, of course, is the fear that you're not good enough to stand on your own 2 feet, or the fear that you can't be a leader. So those are the shadows that are coming up there. And of course, if we've been conditioned for years to be told what to do, to get other people to tell us this is the right road to take, or you need to do that, or you need to take that vaccine, whatever it is. We're very conditioned to do that. And so this is for many people, this is a whole new way of thinking. For older people, because we had a lot of freedom, like when I was growing up in the 70s, sort of 70s, 80s, we had a lot of freedom. And so we learned our sovereignty through that freedom, and we had a lot of independence. We just went out and did things. We went off on your bike for the day and you didn't have a cell phone. You got home when the street lights came on or whatever, you didn't have all of that. And so you learned how to make decisions for yourself. You learned to be sovereign through that experience. But we look at the kids today who are sort of 20s and in their 20s or so, and they haven't had that freedom or that independence. And therefore, they're still a little bit overly reliant on being told what to do. This is what everybody else is doing. This fits in that box. So that's what so we've got those people need to be pushed a little bit more. And they're the ones that will probably find it the hardest, simply because they don't have in this lifetime that experience of that independence. They'll have had it in other lifetimes to call on, but in this lifetime they're going to have to work hard to really work on that shadow, that they can do it on their own, that they can stand up and have an opinion that might be different to everybody else's, that's all okay.
It's just quite interesting because when we talk about the Aquarius, the age of Aquarius, that's what it's all about. It's all about everybody having their own opinion. And so it's almost like you've got one aspect that's saying, this is what you need to do, and then you've got the other aspect that's saying, I don't know how to do it. It's like,
so the Aquarian energy is saying this is what you have to do, and the Aries energy is saying, but I'm scared. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I can do it. So it's like the Aquarius is here, and Aries has got to catch up. It's got to build, you've got to work on that confidence in yourself. And this is where, like we said before, that confidence in yourself doesn't have to come from the fact that you're the CEO. It can come from the fact that you're great at knitting. It doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as it allows you to feel better about yourself and more confident, more self-assured, more sovereign within yourself.
Yes. And I do think that, doing meditating, doing the self-hypnosis, I think that really helps. I believe the Marissa Peer, I think you say it's P-E-E-R. She does a lot of self-hypnosis online, so you can even go online and have a look at her stuff. I mean, working with one of you or myself, you're myself, do I get that right? Yeah, we can also help in those areas. But it is about reprogramming, rewiring your brain to say, yes, I can do this, and yes, I am ready.
And the way to do it, it doesn't need to be a hard, difficult, sort of completely change my way of thinking. It all comes down to love. If you want to be happier, then put more love into what you do, whatever that might be. And if you're not happy in what you're doing, change it. And I know we're in a time where, people are, jobs are hard to come by for some people. And so a lot of people are hanging on and staying in roles that don't bring them a lot of joy, but needs must. And so, but you know, you go home at the end of every day. You have most of us have weekends free. And so there is room and space for you to work on something that does make you feel a lot better about yourself, and just balance it out with what you have to do with what you want to do, until eventually you'll be doing only what you want to do and not what you have to do. But we're going to have to go through a big transition period. We can't just go from, you know, from this to this. There's too much that needs to change along the way. So we've just got to be willing to go through this transition without getting caught up again in the fear.
Yeah. And allowing that to consume you, hey, and block you from your inner knowing, because I think we all know what's right for us and what direction we want to go in. It's just a matter of allowing that to be the dominant voice that you're listening to.
Yeah. And again, you know, if we look globally without getting too political or anything, you know, what we are finally noticing is that leaders of some countries are finally speaking up, are finally going, actually, after we've watched all this horrible stuff happen for how many years, no, we're not going to, this isn't okay anymore. Thank God they're finally, and again, it needed this Aries energy, because up until then, people were still, oh no, we better just wait and see who's going to go first, and I'm not going to be the brave one. But you know, this Aries energy has really encouraged people to step up and to know that, well, if I don't, who's going to?
I think a big one as well is that when we're stepping into the unknown, it's important to know that we actually have, you know, we need to see ourselves as the bird with wings. You know, you're not going to start flying if you're not going to be able to catch yourself, or, you know, or the bird on the branch, or whatever it is. What is that analogy that, you know, really at the end of the day, we've got all of the tools in our tool belt to be able to deal with what is coming up, and just to have more confidence within yourself. If you make a mistake, if it doesn't work out, at least you gave it a go. You know, at least you've learned that lesson, instead of standing back and thinking, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah. And I think another thing that people need to learn a lot more consistency and tenacity. Do not give up so quickly.
Exactly.
Again, we're in this disposable world where we think, oh, well, that didn't work, what's next? But no, if this is important to you, or if it's important, if you feel there's an energy of importance or need around this, do more, work harder, step up. Don't just, you know, use this Aries energy to really push yourself out of your comfort zone, because you're only going to rot if you stay in your comfort zone for too long.
That's right. And I feel like that is definitely something that is coming up for the collective, is that we all need to start stepping out of our comfort zone. We've all been in this cushy little warm, cozy cocoon for so long. It's time to step out and do the butterfly thing.
Yeah. And for many people, that comfort zone is incredibly uncomfortable, but they're not going to change it because they're too scared to, but they're not really happy where they are and existing in the world that they are. Might be paying the bills and ticking a few boxes, but again, it's about, you're allowed more. You're allowed to be happier. You're allowed to have more. There's a brilliant thing called access consciousness, which revolves around 2 sentences. I think we talked about this before. And the 2 sentences are, you know, you can be in any situation going through whatever you're going through, and you're allowed to say to the universe, how does it get better than this? You can have lotto and you're still allowed to say, how does it get better than this? Because otherwise all you're doing is limiting yourself. And when you limit yourself, you limit everything around you. You limit your progress, you limit what you think of yourself, you limit other people's ability to bring you into their lives and cooperate with you. And the other sentence is, what would it take to change this? So this is, again, when you're stuck in a situation and you don't know how to get out of it, just say to the universe, what would it take to change this? But when we do these, use those sentences, you've got to be able to let it go when you ask that question. Because you can't just pull it back, then start sorting it out yourself, because then the universe isn't going to help because you've just pulled it back. So you've got to be able to hand it over and just go, okay, I can't actually solve this for myself right now. So universe, what would it take to change this? And then let it go, and then just see what happens next.
Yeah, that's great tools. Exactly right. And I think that's another thing that we need to be doing, is talking more to Source, God, the higher self, universe, and allowing that knowledge to come through, having more connection to the unknown, so that it can manifest for you, so that we're not limiting ourselves to our limited lens of the human consciousness or the human, you know, perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Allowing it to all work with us, knowing that we're not alone, knowing that we have teams in spirit and teams and all sorts.
And the galactics are out there waiting to help too.
Yeah.
Great.
That's really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope we talked about everything that we were meant to talk about today.
Sure, we will find another opportunity to talk about things if we need to.
Same here. All right. As always, a privilege and honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.